1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19. Creo que me escucho bien, ¿cierto? Creo. Esperemos que sí. Chicos, estamos de vuelta en twitch.tv/PanchoReview después de mucho tiempo jugando de Stanley Parable, así que vengan para que conversemos. Chicos, estamos de vuelta en twitch.tv/PanchoReview después de mucho tiempo jugando de Stanley Parable, así que vengan para que conversemos. Arrow. What the fuck? Hola chiquillos. Hace rato que no hago esto, así que espero no estar muy... ¿Cuál es la palabra que estoy buscando? Oxidado, probablemente lo esté. Pero salió de Stanley Parable en Twitch y me pareció, perdón, en Steam, la versión nueva de Ultra Deluxe, y me pareció que sería bueno probarlo, a ver qué tal. Hace tiempo que no... Ese juego yo lo jugué por primera vez hace muchos años cuando salió. No me acuerdo cuándo fue. Creo que habrá sido 2014, algo así. Y desde entonces que no lo juego. Y nunca lo jugué entero, entonces... Hay cosas que nunca vi y hay otras cosas que ahora hay nuevas que vamos a poder experimentar, así que vamos a jugarlo. A ver qué tal. Voy a cambiar de pantalla. No, eso no. Tengo que arreglar unas cositas. Por ejemplo, el webcam me quedó muy chiquitita ahí, así que... Yo creo que ahí está bien. Vamos a parar la música un poquito. Voy a poner esto aquí. Estoy recordando cómo se hacía todo. Así que tengan un poquito de paciencia, por favor. Y ya. Steam. Descargué el juego, ¿cierto? Creo que sí. Sí, sí lo descargué. Ya, vamos a darle play. Se supone que debería verse. Tengo que cambiar de pantalla porque me va a aparecer en esta pantalla de acá, pero quiero jugar en esta pantalla de acá. Así que denme un momento. Vamos a ponerlo esto en español. ¿Jugaste? No, no sé si lo pueden ver, pero me está preguntando si es que jugué de Stanley Parable alguna vez. Sí. Ajusta la barra deslizante hasta que la computadora sea apenas visible. Yo creo que está bien ahí. Pero voy a cambiar de pantalla, así que... ¿Qué hora es? Son las 20:14. Son las 8:14. Puedes acceder a la configuración de... Ok. Imagino que esto no va a partir... Ok, good. Configuración. Presentación, mostrar subtítulos, datos del jugador. Puedo cambiar la pantalla. Modo de pantalla, resolución. Parece que no. Sonido. No, no, obvio que no. Controles. No puedo cambiar la pantalla que estoy ocupando, quiero ocupar la otra pantalla. Ya creo que no voy a tener que bancármelas nomás. Déjenme mover lo que tenía acá. Tengo que moverlo para este lado para poder ver Twitch. Ahora sí. Esto. La cámara debe estar un poquito más hacia acá. Bueno. Ahí sí. Eso está mejor. Ya. Partamos nomás porque... Lo malo es esto, que voy a estar así, no me gusta esto. Aunque podría ser, mira, voy a hacer una cosa que no debería hacerlo en stream, pero la voy a hacer igual. Voy a cambiar de pantalla principal. Configuración de pantalla, denme un segundo, porque... varias pantallas. Esta va a ser la principal. Ahora. Listo. Entonces voy a mover esto para acá. Tengo que cambiar las pantallas de lugar. Pero por ahora esto igual me sirve. Y ahora. Ahora puedo jugar. Ahora sí puedo jugar mirando hacia adelante, que es como la gente normal juega usualmente. Oh, tengo que hacer esto de nuevo. 8. Ahora son las 8:17. Confirmar. Momento. Ok. Antes de que empecemos, ¿te puedo decir algo? Ok. Esto ya se puso friki. Gracias por configurar la hora las 2 veces que iniciaste el juego. Ujú. Mucha gente no se toma en serio este paso. Dejan el reloj en 12 y siguen adelante. Ok. Pero tú te tomaste el tiempo de configurarlo y te lo agradezco. De nada. Ahora sé que esta experiencia es importante para ti. Estás prestando atención. Oh, todo es importante. Bueno, no todo es importante para mí, pero sí diría que es una experiencia importante para mí. Ni siquiera tengo forma de saber si la hora que pusiste es la correcta. La verdad, mira, les voy a arruinar un poco el juego. La verdad es que como programador, sí tienes una forma. Así que eso es mentira. Eh, Hay una forma por código de obtener la verdadera eh, hora real, actual. Pero vamos a seguir el hilo. ¿Sabes algo? Hagamos un trato. Como cooperaste, la próxima vez que inicies el juego y veas esta pantalla, pon tu hora favorita en el reloj. Adelante, elige la hora que quieras, aunque no sea la correcta. Te lo ganaste. Bien, ya te dejo que vuelvas al videojuego. Ok. Muchas gracias por eso. Bueno, ese es el... esto es este juego, un juego así súper friki y extraño. Vamos a iniciar partida. The end is never, the end is never, the end is loading.
This is the story of a man named Stanley.
Stanley.
Worked for a company in a big building where he was employee number 427. Employee number 427's job was simple. He sat at his desk in room 427 and he pushed buttons on a keyboard.
Okay.
Orders came to him through a monitor
Es
on
como
the
lo que hago
desk,
yo en mi trabajo.
telling him what buttons to push, how long to push them, and in what order. This is what employee 427 did every day of every month of every year. And although others might have considered it soul-rending, Stanley relished every moment that the orders came in, as though he had been made exactly for this job. And Stanley was happy.
Y Stanley era feliz.
And then one day, something very peculiar happened. Something that would forever change Stanley. Something he would never quite forget.
Ok.
He had been at his desk for nearly an hour when he realized that not one single order had arrived on the monitor for him to follow. No one had showed up to give him instructions, call a meeting, or even say hi. Never in all his years at the company had this happened, this complete isolation. Something was very clearly wrong. Shocked, frozen solid, Stanley found himself unable to move for the longest time. But as he came to his wits and regained his senses, he got up from his desk and stepped out of his office.
Ok. Vamos a salir de la oficina.
All of his co-workers were gone. What could it mean? Stanley decided to go to the meeting room. Perhaps he had simply missed a memo.
Ok. La idea es que aquí yo voy a hacer como que estoy jugando por primera vez. Vamos a seguir las instrucciones de la voz. Ok. Me pregunto qué tanto habrá de nuevo. La verdad es que a pesar de que yo he jugado a este juego anteriormente, la verdad es que no recuerdo mucho de él. Y es porque lo jugué hace muchos años. Pero recuerdo que lo pasé muy bien. Así que tenía muchas ganas de volver a jugar este juego ahora que saliese esta versión. Y ver qué tantas cosas nuevas hay. Ok, vamos a...
When Stanley came to a set of 2 open doors, he entered the door on his left.
Ok, vamos a la de la izquierda.
Yet there was not a single person here either. Feeling a wave of disbelief, Stanley decided to go up to his boss's office hoping he might find an answer there.
¿Cómo resolver un problema con un compañero? Let it ball up inside you. No sé qué significa esa expresión. Oh. Using slides to assure employees that... usando diapositivas para asegurarle a los empleados que todo está bien. Todos son únicos. Tú, más que nadie. Eso, no sé si es que eso... Número de diapositivas en esta diapositiva. Charts, charts and slides, slides. Ok. Broom closet, ¿puedo abrir esto? Sí, sí puedo.
Stanley stepped into the broom closet, but there was nothing here, so he turned around and got back on track.
Voy a cerrar esta puerta a ver qué pasa.
There was nothing here. No choice to make, no path to follow. Just an empty broom closet. No reason to still be here.
Voy a quedarme aquí, solamente por joderlo. A ver si es que pasa algo.
It was baffling that Stanley was still just sitting in the broom closet. He wasn't even doing anything. At least if there was something to interact with, he'd be justified in some way. As it is, he's literally just standing there doing sweet FA.
Esto es nuevo, esto yo no me acuerdo que estuviese en el juego anteriormente.
Are you really still in the broom closet?
Aún estoy en el
Standing
armario.
around doing nothing?
Sí.
Why?
¿Por qué
Please
no?
offer me some explanation here. I'm genuinely confused.
¿Por qué no? Es un armario bastante interesante y uno nunca sabe cuándo puede pasar algo interesante en el armario.
You do realize there's no choice or anything in here, right? If I'd said Stanley walked past the broom closet, at least you would have had a reason for exploring it to find out. But it didn't even occur to me because literally this closet is of absolutely no significance to the story whatsoever. I never would have thought to mention it.
Pero yo quiero que tenga una significancia en la historia, entonces yo me quiero quedar aquí dentro del armario y darle un...
Maybe to you this is somehow its own branching path. Maybe when you go talk about this with your friends you'll say, "Oh, did you get the broom closet ending? The broom closet ending was my favorite." I hope your friends find this concerning.
Yo haría eso, pero la verdad es que ninguno de mis amigos les interesa.
Stanley was fat and ugly and really stupid.
Oh,
he
¿en
probably
serio?
only got the job because of a family connection. That's how stupid he is. That or with drug money. Also, Stanley is addicted to drugs and hookers.
Yo no soy así, ¿por qué es tan cruel, güey? Okay.
Well, I've come to a very definite conclusion about what's going on right now. You're dead.
No.
You got to this broom closet, explored it a bit, and were just about to leave because there's nothing here, when a physical malady of some sort shut down your central nervous system and you collapsed on the keyboard.
Uy, ojalá.
Well, in a situation like this, the responsible thing is to alert someone nearby so as to ensure that your body is taken care of before it begins to decompose.
No sé.
Hello? Anyone who happens to be nearby? The person at this computer is dead. They have fallen prey to any number of your countless human physiological vulnerabilities. It's indicative of the long-term sustainability of your species. Please remove their corpse from the area and instruct another human to take their place, making sure they understand basic first-person video game mechanics and filling them in on the history of narrative tropes in video gaming, so that the irony and insightful commentary of this game is not lost on them. All right, when you've done that, just step out into the hallway.
Hola, Mega Tortuga, ¿cómo estás? Bienvenido. Oh, tengo que reactivar los sonidos del stream, así que no los ocupen, porque como estoy recién retomando esto por primera vez en mucho tiempo, no ni siquiera me fijé en si tengo que cambiar una llave, una key.
Second player, it's good to have you on board. I guarantee you can't do any worse than the person who came before you.
Okay. Pero ¿qué pasaría si...
You too? Unbelievable. You're at the mercy of an entire species of invalids. Perhaps there's a monkey nearby you can hand the controls to. A fish? Fungus? Look, you can hammer out the details. I'm not particularly picky. I'll just be waiting for when you're ready to pick up the story again.
Ah, ok, o sea que ya no va a decir nada más. Voy a quedarme aquí unos segundos más a ver si es que me dice algo. Esto es nuevo, ¿ah? Esto no es de la versión original de... Ok, ya se cayó. Ya, sigamos con la historia nomás. Sigamos con la historia. Para las personas que vienen llegando, estamos jugando The Stanley Parable, que es un juego que salió hace varios años atrás, pero el miércoles salió una actualización, una versión nueva del juego, Ultra Deluxe, con varias cosas nuevas.
Coming to a staircase, Stanley walked upstairs to his boss's office.
Ok, vamos a seguir con la historia nomás ya. Vamos a hacerle caso. Sigamos el camino feliz. Este es nuevo. Ok, está cerrado. Sigamos el camino feliz de la historia. Que es la historia que el tipo me quiere contar. Y no la interrumpamos.
Stepping into his manager's office, Stanley was once again stunned to discover not an indication of any human life. Shocked, unraveled, Stanley wondered in disbelief who orchestrated this. What dark secret was being held from him? What he could not have known was that the keypad behind the boss's desk guarded the terrible truth that his boss had been keeping from him. And so the boss had assigned it an extra secret PIN number, 2845. But of course, Stanley couldn't possibly have known this.
Si les soy sincero, ya se me olvidó la clave.
Stanley just sat around twiddling his thumbs. Trying to input anything on the device was useless, since he could never possibly know that the combination was 2845.
Ok, 2845, pero voy a joder un poquito a ver qué pasa si es que empiezo a meter cualquier cosa.
2845.
7536. 2, 4, 1, 8. 8.
Forgot, but it turns out that the panel's emergency override kicked in, and the door just opened all by itself. And Stanley got the hell along with the story. Well, whoop-de-doo.
Ok, gracias. Y vamos para abajo.
Descending deeper into the building, Stanley realized he felt a bit peculiar. It was a stirring of emotion in his chest, as though he felt more free to think for himself, to question the nature of his job. Why did he feel this now, when for years it had never occurred to him? This question would not go unanswered for long.
Uy, eso me asustó.
Stanley walked straight ahead through the large door that read Mind Control Facility.
Eso es nuevo. Eso no lo recuerdo yo de antes. Vamos a seguir nomás por acá.
The lights rose on an enormous room packed with television screens. What horrible secret did this place hold? Stanley thought to himself. Did he have the strength to find out? Now the monitors jumped to life, their true nature revealed. Each bore the number of an employee in the building, Stanley's co-workers. The lives of so many individuals reduced to images on a screen, and Stanley, one of them, eternally monitored in this place where freedom meant nothing.
Donde la libertad no significaba nada. Qué ominoso.
This mind control facility, it was too horrible to believe. It couldn't be true. Had Stanley really been under someone's control all this time? Was this the only reason he was happy with his boring job? That his emotions had been manipulated to accept it blindly? No. He refused to believe it. He couldn't accept it. His own life in someone else's control? Never. It was unthinkable, wasn't it? Was it even possible?
Me encanta lo
Had he
dramático que
truly
es.
spent his entire life utterly blind to the world? But here was the proof. The heart of the operation. Controls labeled with emotions. Happy, or sad, or content. Walking, eating, working. All of it monitored and commanded from this very place. And as the cold reality of his past began to sink in, Stanley decided that this machinery would never again exert its terrible power over another human life. For he would dismantle the controls once and for all.
¿Dónde tengo que hacer eso? Tengo que apretar estos botones. 1, 2. Está todo muy oscuro. Quizás se voy a Facility Power. Oh, ok, tengo que ir para acá. La tremenda pantalla, weón. ¿Quién necesita una pantalla tan grande?
And when at last he found the source of the room's power, he knew it was his duty, his obligation, to put an end to this horrible place and to everything it stood for.
Que vamos a apagarlo. Maldición.
Blackness and a rising chill of uncertainty. Was it over? Yes. He had won. He had defeated the machine, unshackled himself from someone else's command. Freedom was mere moments away. And yet, even as the immense door slowly opened, Stanley reflected on how many puzzles still lay unsolved. Where had his co-workers gone? How had he been freed from the machine's grasp? What other mysteries did this strange building hold? But as sunlight streamed into the chamber, he realized none of this mattered to him, for it was not knowledge or even power that he had been seeking, but happiness. Perhaps his goal had not been to understand, but to let go. No longer would anyone tell him where to go, what to do, or how to feel. Whatever life he lives, it will be his. And that was all he needed to know. It was perhaps the only thing worth knowing. Stanley stepped through the open door. Stanley felt the cool breeze upon his skin, the feeling of liberation, the immense possibility of the new path before him. This was exactly the way, right now, that things were meant to happen. And Stanley was happy.
Logro desbloqueado, termina el juego. Logro desbloqueado, consigue tu primer logro. Me dieron uno gratis. Bueno, ustedes no lo vieron, pero yo lo vi. Ya, eso fue el final del juego así como real. Ahora vamos a empezar a hacer lo que queramos.
All of his co-workers were gone. What could it mean? Stanley decided to go to the meeting room. Perhaps he had simply missed a memo.
Vamos a empezar a...
No matter how hard Stanley looked, he couldn't find a trace of his co-workers.
Who farted? ¿Qué dice ahí? Ok. Ok, vamos. No se puede saltar en este juego. Pensé que se podía saltar. Quizás. Pero no se puede. Por lo que veo.
When Stanley came to a set of 2 open doors, he entered the door on his left.
Por eso voy a ir por la puerta derecha.
This was not the correct way to the meeting room, and Stanley knew it perfectly well. Perhaps he wanted to stop by the employee lounge first, just to admire it.
Intentar abrir todas las puertas. Uno nunca sabe.
Yes, truly a room worth admiring. It had really been worth the detour after all, just to spend a few moments here in this immaculate, beautifully constructed room. Stanley simply stood here, drinking it all in.
Es una habitación muy interesante, ¿eh? Muy acogedora.
Yes, really, really worth it being here in the room.
Absolutamente.
A room so utterly captivating that even though all your co-workers have mysteriously vanished, here you sit looking at these chairs and some paintings. Really worth it.
Sí, absolutamente. Mira esta, mira esta. ¿Qué es eso? Eso son plantas con agüita.
At this point, Stanley's obsession with this room bordered on creepy and reflected poorly on his overall personality. It's possible that this is why everyone left.
Mira, pero veamos qué dice acá, qué dice acá. A ver, algo tiene que haber escrito aquí. ¿Puedo recoger?
Stanley sat around waiting for more dialogue, but when a long time had passed and there was no more, he decided that the game was trying to send him a message.
Mire, ¿qué hora es acá? Son las 11:20. Ya. Pensé que quizás ocuparía mi hora así como real. Así como la hora que le dije que es. Y a partir de eso, bueno, parece que el tío ya se cayó, así que vamos a salirnos.
But at last, he'd had enough of the amazing room and took the first open door on his left to get back to business.
Podría tomar esa habitación, eso, pero la verdad es que tengo mejores planes. Así que vamos a ir por acá.
Stanley was so bad at following directions, it's incredible he wasn't fired years ago.
Precaución. No mienta. Si usted está mintiendo ahora mismo, pare. Buen consejo. Peligro. No salte de el elevador de carga cuando se está moviendo. Causará muerte. Multa por mal uso de esta cosa, $1000. Multa por saltar de esta cosa, $5000. No tengo planes de saltar de esa cosa todavía, pero vamos a ir para acá, supongo.
Look, Stanley, I think perhaps we've gotten off on the wrong foot here.
¿Tú crees?
I'm not your enemy, really, I'm not. I realize that investing your trust in someone else can be difficult, but the fact is that the story has been about nothing but you all this time. There's someone you've been neglecting, Stanley. Someone you've forgotten about. Please, stop trying to make every decision by yourself.
Pero
I'm not asking for me, I'm asking for her.
Pero yo quiero tomar la decisión, así que ¿cuál es el problema? A ver, vamos.
This is it, Stanley. Your chance to redeem yourself, to put your work aside, to let her back into your life. She's been waiting.
Ok. Y ya me cambiaste toda la narrativa que me quería contar antes. Ok, vamos para allá. Esta habitación absolutamente oscura. Ok.
That's her, Stanley. You need to be the one to do this, to reach out to her. If you can truly place your faith in another, then pick up the phone.
Ok. 400
Oh, Stanley, is that you? Hold on, sweetie. Sorry to keep you waiting. I'm just pulling the bread out of the oven. All right. Okay, there we go. All right, now, I want you to come in and tell me all about your day.
Gotcha. Oh, come on. Did you actually think you had a loving wife who'd want to commit their life to you?
¿Por qué no?
I'm trying to make a point here, Stanley. I'm trying to get you to see something. Come inside. Let me show you what's really going on here.
Ok.
This is a very sad story about the death of a man named Stanley.
Buen día, empleado 427. Oprime F en tu... Ok.
Stanley is quite a boring fellow. He has a job that demands nothing of him, and every button that he pushes is a reminder of the inconsequential nature of his existence.
Oprime Z. Ok.
Look at him there, pushing buttons, doing exactly what he's told to do. Now he's pushing a button. Now he's eating lunch. Now he's going home. Now he's coming back to work. One might even feel sorry for him, except that he's chosen this life.
Me rehúso a oprimir M, voy a oprimir P. O W. O T. ¿Qué pasa si no oprimo M? Y lo dejo ahí. O estoy obligado a oprimir M. Parece que estoy obligado, así que vamos a oprimir
But
M.
in his mind he can go on fantastic adventures. From behind his desk, Stanley dreamed of wild expeditions into the unknown, fantastic discoveries of new lands. It was wonderful. And each day that he returned to work was a reminder that none of it would ever happen to him.
Ok. Oprime C para mirar la
And
televisión.
so he began to fantasize about his own job. First, he imagined that one day while at work, he stepped up from his desk to realize that all of his co-workers, his boss, everyone in the building had suddenly vanished off the face of the earth. The thought excited him terribly.
Ok.
So he went further. He imagined that he came to two open doors and that he could go through either. At last, choice. It barely even mattered what lay behind each door. The mere thought that his decisions would mean something was almost too wonderful to behold.
Ok. F. Oye,
As he
quiero
wandered
escena, de
through
hecho.
this fantasy world, he began to fill it with many possible paths and destinations. Down one path lay an enormous round room with monitors and mind controls. And down another was a yellow line that weaved in many directions.
Una
And
línea
down another was a
TM.
game with a
¿Por
babe.
qué?
And he called it the Stanley Parable.
Ok.
It was such a wonderful fantasy, and so in his head he relived it again, and then again, and again, over and over, wishing beyond hope that it would never end, that he might always feel this free. Surely there's an answer down some new path, mustn't there be? Perhaps if he played just one more time.
Ok. Z para decirle a tu esposa que la amas.
But there is no answer. How
Also
could there
fair.
possibly be? In reality, all he's doing is pushing the same buttons he always has. Nothing has changed. The longer he spends here, the more invested he gets, the more he forgets which life is the real one.
Aquí es para irse a dormir.
And I'm trying to tell him this, that in this world he can never be anything but an observer, that as long as he remains here, he's slowly killing himself. But he won't listen to me. He won't stop. Here, watch this. Stanley, the next time the screen asks you to push a button, do not do it. You see? Can he just not hear me? How can I tell him in a way that he'll understand that every second he remains here, he's electing to kill himself?
Nope.
How can I get him to see what I see? How can I make him look at himself?
Ve para no cuestionarte
I
nada.
suppose I can't, not in the way I want him to. But I don't make the rules. I simply play to my intended purpose, the same as Stanley. We're not so different, I suppose. I'll try once more to convey all this to him. I'm compelled to. I must. Perhaps, well, maybe this time he'll see. Maybe this time.
Maybe this time.
And I tried again.
Muere, por
Stanley
favor.
pushed a button. And I tried again. And Stanley pushed a button. And I tried.
Ok, partimos de nuevo. Puedo simplemente no salir. Quedarme aquí para siempre. Quiero ver si es que eso se puede. Me voy a quedar aquí. Démosle 20 segundos. Sí, bueno, llevamos 40 minutos y 30 segundos de stream. Me voy a quedarme aquí hasta el minuto 41. Si no pasa nada, salgo. Pero tengo la idea de que algo tiene que pasar. Si es que me quedo acá y no me muevo. $10 segundos. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Ok, no pasa nada. Chao. Salgamos.
All of his co-workers were gone. What could it mean? Stanley decided to go to the meeting room. Perhaps he had simply missed a memo.
Okay, vamos a... New content.
Oh, new content? What does that mean, new content?
Ok, pero no voy a ir por acá todavía.
When Stanley came to a set of 2 open doors, this was not the correct way to the meeting room, and Stanley knew it perfectly well. Perhaps he wanted to stop by the employee lounge first, just to admire it.
Voy a hacer el mismo recorrido de antes.
Wow. Yes, this room. What a beautiful room. What a gorgeous, gorgeous room. Thank goodness Stanley had taken this detour on his way to the meeting room. Life without having experienced this room was now too horrible even to consider.
Ok, vamos.
But eager to get back to business, Stanley took the first open door on his left.
Lo siento, compadre, pero no.
Stanley was so bad at following directions, it's incredible he wasn't fired years ago.
Vamos por acá.
Look, Stanley, I think perhaps we've gotten off on the wrong foot here.
¿Tú crees?
I'm not your enemy, really, I'm not. I realize that investing your trust in someone else can be difficult, but the fact is that the story has been about nothing but you all this
Después me
time.
puedo tirar para
There's
acá.
someone you've been neglecting, Stanley. Someone you've forgotten about. Please, stop trying to make every decision by yourself. Now, I'm not asking for me, I'm asking for her. This is it, Stanley. Your chance to redeem yourself. To put your work aside. To let her back into your life. She's been waiting. That's her, Stanley.
Ok,
You need to be the one to do this. To reach out to her.
ya, pero...
If you can truly place your faith in another, then pick up the phone.
No, voy a desenchufar el teléfono.
As Stanley picked up the phone, a white light engulfed him, filling him not just with radiance, but with hope. Hope for a life reunited one... Wait. Oh, goodness. Stanley, did you just unplug the phone?
Sí, lo hice.
No, that wasn't supposed to be a choice. How did you do that? You actually chose incorrectly? I didn't even know that was possible. Let me double check. No, it's definitely here, clear as day. Stanley picks up the phone. He's taken to his apartment where he finds his wife, and the two pledge themselves to one another. Music comes in, fade to white, roll credits. Not picking up the phone is actually somehow an incorrect course of action. How is that even possible? None of these decisions were supposed to mean anything. I don't understand. How on earth are you making meaningful choices? What did you... Wait a second. Did I just see... No, that's not possible. I can't believe it.
¿Qué
How had I
cosa?
not noticed it sooner? You're not Stanley. You're a real person.
Wow.
I can't believe I was so mistaken. This is why you've been able to make correct and incorrect choices. And to think I've been letting you run around in this game for so long.
Like,
If you made any more wrong choices, you might have negated it entirely. It's as though you completely ignored even the most basic safety protocol for real-world decision-making. Or did you not grasp the severity of the situation? Well, I won't have that kind of risk on my watch. I'm going to stop the game for a moment so we can educate you properly on safe decision-making in the real world.
Wow, eso
Please
sería muy
observe
útil.
this helpful instructional video.
Choice. It's the best part of being a real person. But if used incorrectly, can also be the most dangerous. For example, in this scenario, a hypothetical real person named Rupert has a choice. He could invent a machine that eliminates food shortages across the world to make life better for all people. Or he could spend years of hard work forgetting how to read. Which choice would you make? Remember that unlike here, the real world makes sense, and at no time should you make a choice that does not conform to rational logic. If you find yourself speaking with a person who does not make sense, in all likelihood, that person is not real. Allow the person to finish their thought, then provide an excuse why you cannot continue talking.
Okay.
Turn to a partner and practice saying, "My goodness, is it 4:30? I'm supposed to be having a back, sack, and crack."
Okay.
Excellent.
Okay.
Making choices on a regular basis is the best part to a healthy decision-making process.
Me encanta eso.
Most medical professionals recommend making at least 8 choices per day.
8.
Do you make more than 8? Less? And finally, if you begin to wonder if your choices are actually meaningful and whether you'll ever make a significant contribution to the world, just remember that in the vast infiniteness of space, your thoughts and problems are materially insignificant, and the feeling should subside. At this time, your instructor will guide you in an exercise to test and reinforce the material covered in this video.
Okay. Gracias.
Ah, welcome back. You may have noticed that this room has begun to deteriorate as a result of narrative contradiction. But
Okay.
not to worry. Now that you're properly informed on good decision-making, we're going to revisit a choice you made just a few minutes ago
Bueno.
and see what the correct thing to do would have been. This way, please.
Ok. Vamos. Supongo. Supongo que solo puedo ir por acá.
Now that we know your choices are meaningful, we can't have you jumping off the platform and dying. Imagine the main character dying senselessly halfway through the story. That story would make no sense at all. We
Pero-
just need to get you home as soon as possible before the narrative contradiction gets any worse.
Pero si-
Unfortunately, it seems this place is not well equipped to deal with reality.
Ok, pero ¿y si yo, como el personaje, quiero morir? Y quiero que esa sea mi historia, ¿acaso no tengo permitido morir? Yo quiero morir. ¿Por qué no? ¿Por qué morir es tan malo? Ok, pero ya, vamos a seguir Vamos a seguir la corriente por ahora. A ver qué pasa.
Almost there. You'll take the door on the left, back to the correct ending, the story will have resolution once again, and you'll be home free in the real world.
Ok, vamos. O sea, eso es lo que tú crees.
Now remember, all you need to do is behave exactly as Stanley would. That means choosing responsibly and always putting the story first. I'm quite sure you'll be up to the task. Just follow my lead and you'll be fine. All right. When Stanley came to a set of 2 open doors, he entered the door on his left.
Ok, pero el problema que tengo es que yo como Stanley creo que yo me iría por la puerta derecha. Mi verdad es que yo me iría por la puerta derecha.
No! Why did you do that? Quickly, hurry back in the other direction. Perhaps we're not too late.
Ok. Vamos a... ¿Esto no? Ok, creo que no puedo... No pasa nada. Ok, vamos por la izquierda, supongo.
Oh, it's ruined. I can't believe, after everything we talked about, that you... My story! You've destroyed my work! Why? For what? What did you get out of that? What did you think was so special about seeing the game undone? Left here like so much garbage. It's worthless now.
Qué gracioso.
What am I supposed to do? Even if there were a way to continue, would it be worth it? To know that my story is now incorrect? How can I go back to that? I can't erase that knowledge. I'll have to live with it forever. Reliving its impossibility forever. I couldn't live that way. Is it better to shut the game down entirely? To willingly destroy all of my work? I don't know. What's the answer? What do I do? What do I do? What do I... No, I have to. I have to shut the game down. I have to.
No,
I have to.
no, es mi hijo. El juego se fue a la B. Oh, volvió el juego. Algo está pasando ahí.
Oh, I'm here. I'm still here. Here in this pile of rubbish. With you. You. Who thought you were so clever. Now look where we are. My entire game is destroyed. It was the only thing in the world that was mine, and you've run it into the ground. What, did you think that would be funny?
Sí.
You just had to see?
Quería ver qué
Didn't I
pasaba.
impress upon you how important it was to be like Stanley?
Pero yo soy
He actually
Stanley.
knows how to do what I tell him to. He understands that if I say to do something, there's a damn good reason for it.
Pero yo soy Stanley.
That thought hadn't even occurred to you, had it? That there's a world outside of you? You're a child. Oh, my story. If you'd just gone through the door on the left, you would have seen it. There was a whole underground facility. You would have destroyed it and been victorious. It would have been so perfect. I worked so hard on it. I tried so hard to make... behave exactly as Stanley would. That means choosing responsibly and always putting the story first. I'm quite sure you'll be up to the task. Just follow my lead and you'll be fine. All right. When Stanley came to a set of 2 open doors, he entered the door on his left.
No, me rehuso. Derecha.
No! Why did you do that? Quickly, hurry back.
Okay.
Behave exactly as Stanley would. That means choosing responsibly and always putting the story first. I'm quite sure you'll be up to the task. Just follow my lead and you'll be fine. All right. When Stanley came to a set of 2 open doors, he entered the door on his left.
Me rehuso. Derecha.
No! Why did you do that? Quickly, hurry. Behave exactly as Stanley would.
Me voy a seguir haciendo
That
esto
means
hasta que algo
choosing
cambie.
responsibly and always putting the story first. I'm quite sure you'll be up to the task. Just follow my lead and you'll be fine. All right. When Stanley came to a set of 2 open doors, he entered the door on his left.
Derecha. Es el
No!
destino.
Why did you do that? Quickly, hurry back. Behave exactly as Stanley
Ahora
would.
está medio abierta.
That means choosing
Algo cambió.
responsibly and always putting the story first. I'm quite sure you'll be up to the task. Just follow my lead and you'll be fine. All right. When Stanley came to a set of 2 open doors, he entered the door on his left.
Hey.
No! Why did you do that? Quickly, hurry back. Behave exactly as Stanley would.
Eso
That means
voy a
choosing
seguir haciendo
responsibly
esto hasta que
and always
algo pase.
putting the story first. I'm quite sure you'll be up to the task. Just follow my lead and you'll be fine. All right. When Stanley came to a set of 2 open doors, he entered the door on his left.
Derecha. Espera, ¿puedo? No, no puedo volver.
No! Why did you do that? Quickly, hurry back. Behave exactly as
Ya,
Stanley
okay,
would.
vamos a ir
That
por la
means
izquierda
choosing
nomás.
responsibly
Y
and
está
always
chato este
putting
tipo de
the
mí.
story first. I'm quite sure you'll be up to the task. Just follow my lead and you'll be fine.
Okay.
All right. When Stanley came to a set of 2 open doors, he entered the door on his left.
Ok, vamos por la izquierda. Y de hecho la puerta se cerró detrás mío para que no me vaya para otra parte.
Yet there was not a single person here either. Feeling a wave of disbelief, Stanley decided to go up to his boss's office, hoping he might find an answer there. Coming to a staircase,
ya no
Stanley
puedo
walked upstairs to
ir
his
por allá.
boss's office.
Como que hay muchos caminos bloqueados para mí. No puedo ir para allá. Como que ahora me están forzando a seguir el camino correcto. Pero esto es distinto, esto no era así antes.
Stepping inside his manager's office, Stanley was once again stunned to discover not an indication of any human life. Shocked, unraveled, Stanley wondered in disbelief who orchestrated this, until he saw the door with a voice receiver next to it. Surely behind this door lay all the answers to his questions. And beyond all probability, he knew the passcode. He had seen it on his boss's computer just last week. Nightshark 115. Was this the code to open the door? Would it still work? There was only one way to find out. Stanley had been trained never to speak up, But now he would draw from within himself the courage to face the unknown. He drew a sharp breath and then spoke the code.
Se supone que tengo que decir Night Shark 115. Night Shark 115.
Stanley spoke the code. Night Shark 115.
Porque a lo mejor tengo que
He spoke
decirlo.
it into the receiver, right there on the wall.
Tiburón nocturno 115.
I'm sorry, is there a problem?
Estoy
You
diciéndolo.
didn't mishear me, did you?
No lo estoy diciendo.
Please speak the code into the receiver. Otherwise we can't get on with the story.
Estoy
This is a
tratando.
crucial
Sí,
step.
pero es que estoy tratando de decir el tiburón nocturno 115.
Okay, fine. You're not going to do it, but you know what? It's pretty humiliating to bring you this far, only for you to suddenly decide you have better things to do.
No.
I asked you for this
Estoy-
one single thing, for your respect.
Estoy mostrando, estoy tratando de jugar. Estoy diciendo el código.
If you didn't want to see what I had to show you, then why did you come here?
Porque
You had a
estoy-
choice, you know. You could have gone through the door on the right. You
Pero
could
lo
have done
hice.
whatever the hell you wanted over there. Why did you come this way?
Lo hice
Speak.
mucho.
Say something to me. Explain
Estoy
yourself,
tratando
you
de
coward.
decirte que
You-
estoy.
When
Oh.
Stanley came to a set of 2 open doors, he entered the door on his left.
Oh. Wow.
Stanley? Hello?
Estoy ahí. Estoy,
everything okay?
estoy ahí, pero estoy
Stanley,
acá
please.
también.
I need you to make a choice.
What the fuck, este juego. Hola, Cata, ¿cómo estás? Bien.
Are you listening to me? Can you hear me?
Ok, esto es como un final
Is
falso.
everything all right? Stanley, this is important. The story needs you. It needs you to make a decision. It cannot exist without you. Do you understand me?
Sí, pero no
Whatever
puedo
choice
decir
you make is
porque
just fine. They're both correct. You cannot be wrong.
menos
here. We can work
comprensivo que
together.
mi padre.
I'll accept whatever you do. I simply need you to take that step forward, please. Choose.
Entonces,
Do
sí,
something.
estoy haciendo, me estoy moviendo.
This is more important than you can ever know. I
Oh,
need
maldición,
this.
cámara
The
desgraciada.
story needs it. So, you hear me? Are you there? Are you listening to this? Stanley, are you there? Okay. It's okay, I can wait. You need time to decide. Time to make sure your choice is correct. That is the best choice. That's all right. I'll wait for you to decide what's the right thing to do. Take as much time as you need.
Ok. Ok. Se reinició. Yo estoy bien, ¿y tú? Vamos a...
All of his co-workers were gone. What could it mean? Stanley decided to go to the meeting room. Perhaps he had simply missed a memo.
Ok. Pero no, vamos a hacer lo que me estás diciendo que haga. Bacán, mucho mejor. Qué bueno, me alegro. New content, pero no voy a ir para allá todavía. Después voy a ir para allá.
When Stanley came to a set of 2 open doors, he entered the door on his left.
¿Hemorroides? ¿En serio? Vamos a ir a la derecha.
This was not the correct way to the meeting room, and Stanley knew it perfectly well. Perhaps he wanted to stop by the employee lounge first, just to admire it.
No es... O sea, es nuevo. Este es The Stanley Parable Ultra Deluxe, que es una versión nueva del juego. Este juego salió originalmente en 2013, creo, 2014. Y hace unos días salió una nueva versión con contenido adicional. Así
The
que
lounge was sublime, a work of art.
quería
What was it
probarlo. ¿Qué
about
tal?
this room that called so deeply and so personally to Stanley?
Es una
Its
linda.
grace, its subtle charm.
Sí, es
No,
bonita.
Stanley knew it was something deeper, something darker. But eager to get back to business, Stanley took the first open door on his left.
Haría eso, pero no. Vamos a seguir por acá.
Stanley was so bad at following directions, it's incredible he wasn't fired years ago. Look, Stanley, I think perhaps we've gotten off on the
Podría
wrong
tirarme y
foot
morir.
here. I'm not your enemy,
Pero no
really,
lo voy a
I'm
hacer
not.
todavía.
I realize that investing your trust in someone else can be difficult,
Sí.
but the fact is that the story has been about nothing but you all this time.
Pues que la
There's
historia es
someone you've
mía.
been neglecting, Stanley. Someone you've forgotten about. What? Really? I was in the middle of something. Do you have zero consideration for others? Are you that convinced that I want something bad to happen to you?
Probablemente,
I don't know
sí.
how to convince you of this, but I really do want to help you, to show you something beautiful.
Ok.
Let me prove it. Let me prove that I'm on your side. Give me a chance.
Ok, una sola. Peligro. Peligro, peligro en todas partes. Podrías, pero debes transmitir en Twitch y esta Nueva Zelanda. Sí. Ok, se cerró la puerta. 2P1. Ok, vamos por acá. Es el único camino que puedo tomar. Esto claramente está cerrado. Peligro. No se paren en este lado de la cerca. Demasiado tarde. Ok, vamos por acá.
Now listen carefully, this is important. Stanley walked through the red door.
Stanley caminó por la puerta azul.
Aha, perhaps you misunderstood. Stanley walked through the red door.
Por la puerta azul, claro. Eso es lo que me está diciendo, ¿no?
I still don't think we're communicating properly. Stanley walked through the red door.
La puerta azul, que está acá.
All right, fine, go ahead, Stanley. You want to know so badly what's out there? You want to find out what lies at the end of this road you've chosen? Well, don't let me stop you.
Ok, gracias.
You see? There's nothing here. I haven't even finished building this section of the map because you were never supposed to be here in the first place. Broken
Okay.
rooms, exposed developer textures. Is this what you had wanted? Was it worth ruining the entire story I had written out specifically for you? Do you not think I put a lot of time into that? Because I did.
O sea,
And in the end, it was all for nothing. Because this is what you wanted to see. Help me here, Stanley. Help elucidate these strange and unknowable desires of yours. What would have made this game better? What did you want to see? Vehicles? Skill trees? Work with me. You've given me absolutely nothing so far.
o sea,
Tell you what. Let me take a stab in the dark at a new design and you can give me some feedback.
si-
There we go. A third option. This already feels leaps ahead of where we were before. Go ahead, Stanley. Take it for a spin.
voy a ir por la derecha. Oh, esto me llevó para acá. Este juego creo que lo había jugado en vivo antes. Este parece que no. Este parece que no. Pero lo he jugado, yo lo he jugado antes, pero lo jugué hace muchos años. De hecho, tantos que ya ni me acuerdo de muchas cosas que ya no recuerdo.
Okay, I'm going to stop you there.
Okay.
Now, tell me about your experience with this new version. Would you say that the game benefited from allowing you more choices? Feel free to be honest. I'm looking for some real critical feedback here.
Vamos a darle un 2.
Oh, well, now this is useful. You didn't like it, but you didn't totally hate it either.
Yeah.
You enjoyed it, perhaps is the correct term.
No
It
toleré,
didn't cause
claro.
you excruciating pain. Big steps we've made here today, Stanley. Here, based on the data from your previous playthrough, I've compiled a new version. And to be perfectly candid, I think I've knocked it out of the park with this one. Let's take a look.
Ok, veamos qué es lo que tienes. The Stanley Parable Worldwide Leaderboard. En total, 91.730 puertas abiertas. ¿Esto es en tiempo real? Ok. No puede ser. No, esto no es en tiempo real. ¿Sabías que el 21.3% de los jugadores se saltaron la secuencia de introducción? Ok. ¿Qué tanto tiempo te toma a ti llegar a la puerta correcta? Ok. Eres... Oh. Tu ranqueo objetivo es 9.328 de 1.900.328 jugadores. Una rata muerta está desconectada. O sea que yo soy peor que una rata muerta. God damn it. Ok, vamos a ir por esta puerta que el tipo creó.
Now, would you say that competitive leaderboard helped you feel motivated to keep walking through doors? Again, honest answers, please.
Me motivó, la verdad es que no. No me motivó.
Hey, I nearly forgot. I've got a prototype of a new game I've been working on, and now would be a lovely opportunity to give it some play testing.
Okay.
You wouldn't mind taking a look at it, would you?
No,
Perfect.
no.
Let me boot it up. In this game, the baby crawls left towards danger. You click the button to move him back to the right.
Okay.
And if he reaches the fire, you fail. It's a very meaningful game, all about the desperation and tedium of endlessly confronting the demands of family life. I think the art world will really take notice. But of course, the message of the game only becomes clear once you've been playing it for about 4 hours.
4
So
horas.
why don't you give it 4 hours of play to make sure it's
Me estáis
effective?
hueveando.
Be
Estoy-
sure to keep notes on your experience.
No puedo hacer esto. Esto es lo peor, weón. Lo peor es que estoy seguro de que si hago esto de forma no irónica durante 4 horas, algo pasa. Pero no, esta weá es súper molesta, weón. Entre el ruido del botón y el bebé, quémate, weón. Quémate, hijo de puta.
You heartless bastard.
No me importa.
Did you do it because you hate babies or purely to
Por
spite
eso,
me?
por lo primero.
Because if it's the latter, well, I don't know what to do. I'm completely out of ideas. I can't think of a single thing that might improve the experience for me. I'm not even going to try. I'm out. I'm done. It's over. Thank you for playing. Your input was extremely valuable. Oh, hey, since my game was so awful, why don't we play someone else's game? Just to ease the pain.
Sí,
Let's see.
no estaría mal. Ojalá sea algo bueno.
Yes, this seems like it'll work. Let's give it a shot.
Ok, sí. No, cualquier cosa a mí me... Yo estoy de acuerdo, o sea... ¡Ah!
Fascinating. What do you think this game is about, Stanley?
Qué gran
What's our
juego,
backstory?
man.
What is our motivation? Well, it seems obvious to me that you are meant to play as a creepy man spying
Sí.
on innocent civilians below you from up high in your creep tower. Perhaps
No.
for some sort of twisted erotic purpose. Yes, that must be it. What a fascinating venture into the experience of total mental depravity. So far, I love everything about this game, Stanley. And it seems there's even more. Come, let's venture outward and see what else is out there.
No se trata realmente de eso el juego, pero... Ok. Pero vamos a seguir jugándolo. Qué gran juego es Firewatch, weón. El Firewatch.
Oh no. No, it can't be.
¿Qué? ¿Qué pasa? ¿Qué no puede ser?
It is. It's an open world game. Good
Sí.
God, quickly block it off.
¡No!
Thank goodness, Stanley. What a close call. You nearly wandered off into that thing. That big, open, just wandering around. No right or wrong directions. No path to follow. You can just go in any... Oh, thank heavens we avoided it.
No.
Out of the woods now, Stanley. Okay, I'm going to get us out of here. Let's find another game.
Ok.
Preferably something with walls. Something with nice, big, insurmountable walls.
Ok, o sea... No estoy en contra de eso. Sí me hubiese gustado haber
I
podido
think
jugar un
this
poco más de
will be
esto.
just the thing.
Ok. ¿Cuál es este? Este es...
Wonderful. See,
Rocket
this is
League.
exactly what I had in mind. Just a nice big box for you to run around in. There isn't any possibility that you could get lost here. Now this is game design. Stanley, if you manage to get lost in this game, I will be phenomenally impressed.
Vamos a ir al arco del equipo.
Okay, so what exactly do we do here? Let's see. There are lots of cars here in the back, but obviously there's no racetrack. Okay, I'm seeing that there's a ball of some kind back here. Is this game sports ball?
Sí.
I think it's sports ball. Oh, what fun. We shall run the bases and do a touchdown together. Yes, I think surely
No,
we
esto
must.
no es
Okay,
béisbol.
Stanley, here's the ball. Have fun.
Oh, no. Okay, ¿tengo que hacerlo? Oh, wow, me puse más rápido ahora. Ok, vamos a meter un gol.
Hold on. What are you doing?
Pero tú me dijiste que...
Stanley, don't do that. I can't follow you there. I can't help you. How will you write a story without me? You can't do it. You know that. Stanley, come back.
Ok, algo hice. Supongo que voy a ir por esta parte. Quizás no, está muy oscuro todo. Oh. ¿Por qué está tan oscuro? Ok, vamos por aquí. Oh, luz. Oh, algo ahí. Ok. Solamente unos computadores encendidos. Ok, supongo que tengo que venir para acá. Que supongo que no. Wow.
I wonder what he found. If what he wanted was to be the leading man in his own story, well, perhaps he's gotten it. Down in wherever he is right now. I wonder if he's happy with his choice, and if he's learned the heavy cost that comes with it. He'll understand soon what I was trying to tell him. He needs me. Someone who will wrap everything up at the end, to make sense out of the chaos and the fear and the confusion. That's who I am. That is what I mean to this world. Oh, yes. Yes, I'll be back. There's no other way. Once this ends, after it all comes to a close, then I'll be back. The end will be here soon. Very soon.
Very soon.
I can wait.
Ok. Yo no puedo esperar. Ok, reiniciamos. Vamos de nuevo.
A soft wind blew outside and perhaps rain started, and if it did, it stopped shortly after. Stanley hoped that he would one day see weather.
Ok, esto es distinto.
When Stanley came to a set of 2 open doors, he entered the door on his left.
¿Qué me falta por hacer? A la derecha. Voy a ir a la derecha, pero...
This was not the correct way to the meeting room, and Stanley knew it perfectly well. Perhaps he wanted to stop by the employee lounge first, just to admire it.
Solo para admirarla.
Standing now in this incredible room, Stanley for the first time understood true happiness. Then the feeling went away, and he felt sad again. Then it came back, and lingered for a minute or two. Now it's only half there. Just a kind of, tingle. But eager to get back to business, Stanley took the first open door on his left.
Me voy a matar. Me voy a matar.
Stanley was so bad at following directions, it's incredible he wasn't fired years ago.
Me voy a matar. Me voy a matar. Me voy a matar.
Look, Stanley, I think perhaps we've got... But in his eagerness to prove that he is in control of the story and no one gets to tell him what to do,
Nadie.
Stanley left from the platform and plunged to his death.
Oh.
Good job, Stanley. Everyone thinks you are very powerful.
Sí, lo soy. Ok.
A soft wind blew outside and perhaps rain started, and if it did, it stopped shortly after. Stanley hoped that he would one day see weather.
Tengo ganas de ir para allá, pero todavía no.
When Stanley came to a
vamos
set
a
of
ir a
2
la
open
derecha.
doors, this was not the correct way to the meeting room,
Y vamos a
and
volver por
Stanley
la
knew
parte
it perfectly
izquierda.
well. Perhaps he wanted to stop by the employee lounge first, just to admire it. Stanley felt lightheaded, butterflies in his stomach. But eager to get back to business, Stanley took the first open door on his left. And so he detoured through the maintenance section, walked straight ahead to the opposite door, and got back on track.
Que podría meterme a ese elevador de carga.
But Stanley didn't want to go back to the office. He wanted to wander about and get even further off track. So now in order to get back, he needed to go, from here it's, left.
Okay, si tú lo dices.
Oh, no.
Oh.
No, it's to the right. My mistake.
Okay.
No, no, not the right. Why would I have ever said it was to the right? What was I thinking? It's clearly... Oh, dear, would you hold on for a minute, please?
Okay.
Now, let's see. We went down right, left, down, left, right. Yep, okay, yes. I've got it now.
Okay.
This story is absolutely, definitely this way.
Ok. Supongo que no me vas a cerrar la parte en la cara. Ok, good. Vamos a bajar por aquí.
No. This isn't right at all. You're not supposed to be here yet. This is all a spoiler. Quick, Stanley, close your eyes.
Ok.
Okay. We just have to get back to, oh, who am I kidding? It's all rubbish now. The whole story completely unusable. How about, rather than waste my time trying to salvage this nonsense, we'll just restart the game from the beginning.
Pero no
And
quiero
this time,
reiniciar desde el
suppose we
principio.
don't wander so far off track, hmm? Okay, from the top.
Ok.
All of his co-workers were gone. What could it mean? Stanley decided to go to the meeting room. Perhaps he had simply missed a memo.
Ok, vamos para allá. Ahora voy a ir para la izquierda nomás, pero...
When Stanley... Wait,
What?
what? No, I restarted. I swear I definitely restarted the game over, completely fresh. Everything should be... Oh, did something change?
Algo absolutamente
Stanley,
cambió.
did you change anything when we were back in that room with all the monitors?
Yo no hice
Did
nada.
you move the story somewhere or...
No, nada.
on.
Yo estaba acá.
Why am I asking you? I'm the one who wrote the story.
Oh, claro.
It was right here just a minute ago. I know for sure that it's here somewhere. Okay, then. It's an adventure. Come, Stanley. Let's find the story.
Ok. Vamos por acá. Vamos por aquí. Culpa interna. Todos saben lo que hiciste. Solo se están... Ok. Solo están dejando... Todos saben lo que hiciste. Solamente lo
I'll say
ignoran.
it. This is the worst adventure I've ever been on. I can promise you there definitely was a story here before.
Supongo.
Do we just...
pero
Do we need to restart the game again?
no, ¿para qué? Sí.
Well, I find it unlikely that we'll ever progress by starting over and over again.
No.
But it's got to be better than this. Okay, let's give it a shot. Why not?
Ok. Si tú lo dices.
All of his co-workers were gone. What could it mean? Stanley decided to go to the meeting room. Perhaps he had simply missed a memo.
Quizás aquí... Oh, se cayó esa taza con café. Pero no hay puertas ahora.
Okay, yep, it's worse. I might be remembering this wrong. It's possible the story is back where we just came from. Why
¿Tú
don't we go
crees?
back the other direction and see if we missed anything?
Ok, si tú... Estoy tratando de ayudarte. Todo se ve normal.
Aha! I knew we'd missed something.
¿Qué cosa?
The story. Here it comes.
No me digáis que me...
No, wait. Never mind. Not the story. Okay, let's head back the other way and retrace our steps.
Ok, pero... Otra vez cambió. Uy, esto ya parece un juego de terror.
Now this... Well, I'll be honest. I don't recognize this place at all. Is this the story?
No
I don't
sé,
think so.
o sea...
I can't quite recall, but I believe my story took place in an office building. Is that correct? Do you remember, Stanley? Well, do you know what? Since I've completely forgotten what we were supposed to be doing, how about this? You win! Congratulations! I know you put in a lot of hard work, and it really paid off. So, good job.
Gracias.
Oh, no. No, I don't feel right about this at
No,
all.
pero ¿por qué si
We
gané?
both know you didn't put in any actual work for that win.
Si me
Some people win
esforcé.
fair and square, and this was not one of those situations. Okay? I'm getting weirded out by whatever this place is. I don't care what might happen this time. I have to restart.
No, pero no. Whoa.
All right, I've got a solution. This time, to make sure we don't get lost, I've employed the help of the Stanley Parable Adventure Line.
Okay.
Just follow the line. How simple is that?
Bastante. No, eso no se supone que tienen que ir por acá. Esto es raro. Y sigamos la línea, supongo. Pero se supone que la aventura no iba por allá.
You see? The line knows where the story is. It's over in this direction. Onward, Stanley, to destiny. Though, here's a thought. Wouldn't wherever we end up be our destination, even if there's no story there? Or to put it another way, is the story of no destination still a story?
No veo.
Simply by the act of moving forward, are we implying a journey such that a destination is inevitably conjured into being via the very manifestation of the nature of life itself? Okay, Stanley, I need to follow this train of thought for a minute. Just stick with me.
Ok.
Now, we can both agree that the nature of existence is in fact a byproduct of one's subjective experience of that existence, right?
Sí.
Okay. Now, if my experience of your existence rests inside of your subjective experience of this office, is this office, in fact, the skeleton of my own relative experiential mental subjective construct? Whoa. That got a bit weird back there. Well, I'd like to apologize. Not sure where I was going with all that. You know what? I think what we need right now is a bit of music to lighten the mood.
Jazz. Oh. ¿Por qué ponen esa música? Que honestamente, la verdad es que sí pega bastante bien con lo que está sucediendo en pantalla. No puedo pasar por ahí. Esto realmente me va a llevar a la historia.
Wait, cut the music, go back and look at that fern. Stanley, this fern will be very important later in the story. Make sure you study it closely and remember it carefully. You won't want to miss anything.
¿En serio? ¿Cuántas hojas tiene? Ok, es muy bonito. Ok, vamos a continuar. ¿Podemos volver a poner la música?
Wait, what? We're back at the office? No. Line, you do know we're looking for the Stanley Parable, right? The story? Is any of this ringing a bell?
Ok, vamos a seguir por acá. Yo desde el principio dije que esto estaba mal. Oh no.
Oh, no, not again. Line, how could you have done this to us? And after we trusted you, after everything we've been through, Oh, I can't take this anymore. To hell with it. Restart.
No, ok. ¿Otra vez? ¿Debo confiar en la línea si quiere? Ok, vamos a...
You know what, Stanley?
Okay.
I say forget the adventure line. What's it ever done for us?
No.
We're intelligent people, right? Why can't we make up our own story?
Sí.
Something exciting, daring, mysterious. Ooh, this all sounds perfectly doable. Why don't we simply start wandering in, well, I don't know.
¿Por acá?
How about this direction?
Esa parte, sí. Ok, vamos para allá.
Now, yes, this is exciting. Just me and Stanley forging a new path, a new story. Well, it could be anything.
Me
What do you
tienes
want
caminando
our
en
story to
círculos.
be? Go wild. Use your imagination. Whatever it might be, Stanley, I'm ready for it. Oh, no, not you again. Stanley, I'd also like to veto the line from having any role in our awesome new story. No lines or monitor rooms. Just don't acknowledge it, and we should be fine.
Ok, quizás si me devuelvo. ¿Puedo devolverme? Este lugar desafía por completo las leyes de la física. Que es por allá nomás. Vamos, sigamos por acá. Simplemente. Creo que no tengo mayor opción que eso. Ok. No. La línea está por todas partes. Pero la línea claramente... Ok.
Ah, a choice. We get to make a decision.
Okay.
From here, the story is in our control.
Lo
How
está.
important we mustn't squander the opportunity. In fact, I believe I need a minute to think here. Just walk in circles for a minute.
¿En serio?
Okay. So I know that each door has to lead somewhere, which means that somewhere, the place where we're trying to go, there must be a reverse door that leads here. And that in turn means that our destination corresponds with the counter-inverted reverse door's origin. So starting from the right, let us ask, will taking the right door lead us to where we're going? And since the answer is clearly yes, then by all accounts, the door on the right is the correct one. Another victory for logic. Come, Stanley, our destiny awaits.
Ah, ok. Tú tomaste la decisión, yo no.
Oh, hold up, what's this? The confusion ending. You're telling me that's what this is? It's all one giant ending? And we're supposed to restart the game, what, eight times? That's really how all this goes? It's all determined? So now, according to the schedule, I restart again. Then what? Am I just supposed to forget? Well, what if I don't want to forget? My mind goes blank simply because it's written here on this thing, wall. Well, who consulted me? Why don't I get to decide? Why don't I get a say in all of this? Is it really... No, it can't be. I don't want it to be. I don't want the game to keep restarting. I don't want to forget what's going on. I don't want to be trapped like this. I won't restart the game. I won't do it. I won't do it. I won't do it.
Ok, no lo hagas.
And the timer stopped? Does that mean, did we do it? Did we break the cycle? The, whatever it is that made this schedule? How would we even know? Will someone come for us? Will something happen? So, okay. I guess now we just wait. You know, I suppose in some way that this is a kind of story. Wouldn't you agree?
O sea,
I'm
sí,
not
lo
quite sure
es.
if we're in the destination or the journey, though they're always saying that life is about the journey and not the destination. So I hope that's where we are right now. We'll find out, won't we? Eventually. Well, in the meantime, if you...
Wow.
Wait, Stanley thought to himself. Am I sure that the orders stopped coming in? How is that possible? They never stopped. Surely I was mistaken. No, the orders were still missing. For now.
Por ahora, que quizás si ahora me quedo aquí a esperar que entre algo. No, quizás no. Vamos a seguir explorando. Quiero entrar ahí, pero todavía no.
When Stanley came to a set of 2 open doors, he entered the door on his left.
Ah, sí, vamos por la izquierda.
Yet there was not a single person here either. Feeling a wave of disbelief, Stanley decided to go up to his boss's office. Coming to a staircase, Stanley walked upstairs to his boss's office.
Vamos a subir, pero en vez de ir para allá, voy a ir para allá. Baño ejecutivo. Money in the morning, money in the evening, money for breakfast, money crisp. ¿Pasa algo acá? Qué bonito el baño, me gustaría tener un baño así, honestamente. ¿No puedo hacer algo? Parece que no puedo hacer nada. Voy a ir por acá. Ah, parece que sí puedo. Vamos a intentarlo. Me pregunto si es que es distinto si es que presiono el de arriba. Vamos a ir para arriba. ¡Oh, maldición! Maldita cámara, porque siempre pasa eso. Wow. Este es un edificio muy grande, muy alto. ¿Cuánto rato vamos a subir? Ok. Estoy aquí mismo. What the fuck? ¿Qué es eso ya? Ok, algo hice. Voy a intentar hacer esto de nuevo, pero hacia abajo. Stanley. Ok, parece que no pasa nada. No pasa nada, o sea, sigo acá. Qué raro. Ok.
Stepping into his manager's office, Stanley was once again stunned to discover not an indication of any human life. What could it mean? Stanley wondered aloud to nobody. He began wildly tearing through papers on the boss's desk, pulling books off the shelf, looking behind paintings, desperate for clues to his situation. But his attention was caught by a keypad behind the boss's desk. What could its purpose be? In fact, this keypad guarded the terrible secret that lay buried below his feet. And so the boss had assigned it an extra secret PIN number, 2845. But of course, yet incredibly, by simply pushing random buttons on the keypad, Stanley happened to input the correct code by sheer luck. Amazing. He stepped into the newly opened passageway.
Ok. Bueno, aquí ya estamos siguiendo la historia como tal. Pero igual creo que puedo desviarme después. Y vamos a ver qué pasa si es que lo hago.
Stanley walked straight ahead through the large door that read Mind Control Facility.
Pero la verdad es que no lo hizo.
Although this passageway had the word escape written on it, the truth was that at the end of this hall, Stanley would meet his violent death.
Lo que siempre he
The door
querido.
behind him was not shut. Stanley still had every opportunity to turn around and get back on track. At this point, Stanley was making a conscious, concerted effort to walk forward and willingly confront his death.
No es lo que queremos todos. Wow. ¿Dónde estoy?
As the
Oh,
machine whirred into motion and Stanley was inched closer and closer to his demise, he reflected that his life had been of no consequence whatsoever. Stanley can't see the bigger picture. He doesn't know the real story, trapped forever in his narrow vision of what this world is. Perhaps his death was of no great loss, like plucking the eyeballs from a blind man. And so he resigned and willingly accepted this violent end to his brief and shallow life. Farewell, Stanley.
pues me muero. Oh,
Farewell, Stanley, cried the narrator,
Uh-oh.
as Stanley was led helplessly into the enormous metal jaws. In a single visceral instant, Stanley was obliterated as the machine crushed every bone in his body, killing him instantly.
oh no. The Stanley
And yet it
Parable.
would be just a few minutes before Stanley would restart the game, back in his office, as alive as ever.
Ok, ahora
What
estamos.
exactly did the narrator think he was going to accomplish?
Ahora están leyendo el guión de verdad. Aparentemente. The Stanley Parable.
When every path you can walk has been created for you long in advance, death becomes meaningless, making life the same. Do you see now? Do you see that Stanley was already dead from the moment he hit start?
Supongo. Computadora de Stanley. Diagrama de la oficina. Este plano muestra la oficina del comienzo del juego. El camino desde la oficina de Stanley hasta las dos puertas fue la primera parte del juego que se construyó. A lo largo del desarrollo se agregaron y modificaron distintas secciones, pero el diagrama fundamental es casi idéntico a la primera versión. Eso es claro, esa es la oficina, la primera parte, y aquí es donde uno llega a la primera decisión. Estamos como en una zona como un museo del juego. La oficina. El escritorio, las dos puertas. El escenario de las dos puertas abiertas fue la primera pieza concreta del diseño de Stanley Parable. Una vez que se creó esta habitación, el resto del juego surgió como una extensión, una exploración de la contradicción que se planteaba acá. Ok. Ah, aquí hay otra cosa más. Pasillo. El ritmo de la sección inicial era crucial para el juego. El pasillo se movió y se modificó para que los jugadores llegaran a las dos puertas en un buen tiempo. Archivadores. Computadoras de la oficina. Sonidos de botones. Sección de los sonidos que se utilizan en el juego cuando se oprimen botones. En cada uno de ellos se combina un tono sintetizado con el sentido que se produce al presionar el teclado. Oh. créditos. Vamos a ir por la derecha. Ya debería, no sé por dónde debería ir. Es como un museo. Oficina del jefe. Imágenes del desarrollo de la oficina del jefe. Esa es la final, parece. Reloj de la oficina. Zona subterránea. Una versión inicial de la zona subterránea del juego.
Party for him for all his button pushing. Does that sound plausible to you?
Now look closely, Stanley. See how it's impossible for the player to do anything in this room. Perfect example of poor level design. Textbook mistake.
Stanley,
It's the kind of thing you'd pick up on intuitively if you had even the most fundamental understanding.
Kevin
of good and
Bright,
bad
Ting,
things.
la voz del narrador, grabó el diálogo de todo el juego, 3 momentos diferentes a lo largo de los 2 años de desarrollo. Aquí hay tomas iniciales que no se utilizaron en el juego inicial. Ok, vamos a ir por la otra parte entonces. Vamos arriba. Fin de la libertad. Esta fue la primera versión del final de la libertad en la versión del juego. Ah, no es final de la libertad, es el final de la libertad. Bueno. Escritorio de la cuenta regresiva. Durante un tiempo el ascensor de la sala de monitores podía subir o bajar. Arriba estaba la libertad y debajo la cuenta regresiva. Abandonamos esta idea porque a los jugadores les costaba recordar que había arriba y que había abajo, y en cambio pusimos los dos finales juntos. Final de la libertad. Este es el final de la libertad de la versión beta. Habitación de la cuenta regresiva. Una versión inicial de la habitación de la cuenta regresiva. Ok.
Oh, look at these two. How they wish to destroy one another. How they wish to control one another. How they both wish to be free. Can you see? Can you see how much they need one another? No, perhaps not. Sometimes these things cannot be seen. But listen to me. You can still save those two. You can stop the program before they both fail. Push escape and press quit. There's no other way to beat this game. As long as you move forward, you'll be walking someone else's path. Stop now and it'll be your only true choice. Whatever you do, choose it. Don't let time choose for you. Don't let...
Wow. Pues me muero. Ya, voy a hacer una última porque tengo
All of
que
his co-workers were
cerrar el
gone.
stream pronto.
What could it mean?
Pero
Stanley decided
vamos
to go
a
to the
ir
meeting
por
room.
la puerta del
Perhaps he had
contenido
simply
nuevo. A ver
missed a
qué hay
memo.
de nuevo ahí. New content.
Oh,
New content.
what does that mean? New content.
¿Qué
Hello,
tenemos?
and thank you for playing the Stanley Parable Ultra Deluxe.
Ok.
As you may know, the Stanley Parable was a video game released in 2013 on home computers.
Efectivamente.
After receiving critical and commercial success, it was expanded upon in 2022 with the Stanley Parable Ultra Deluxe, a reimagining of the game for consoles and home computers.
Claro.
The Stanley Parable Ultra Deluxe features exciting new content that broadens and expands the world of the Stanley Parable, delighting audiences the world over. Please, step inside and see what thrilling new adventures await in The Stanley Parable Ultra Deluxe.
Eso
Oh,
quiero.
well, this sounds delightful. I'm very excited to see the thrilling new Ultra Deluxe content.
Me imagino que me están puro weyando así, como que la verdad es que no hay contenido nuevo y a todos nos vendieron la pomada.
Okay, so far it's an elevator. Nothing special yet, but I'm sure it's just the beginning of a mesmerizing adventure.
Tengo que apretar algo.
Is it broken? What's going on here? Should we be moving somewhere or... oh,
Okay.
There we go. All right, finally, at long last, it's on to the new content. I've never been more ready. Let's do it.
La puerta se va a abrir por acá, por acá.
I have to say, initial impressions of Stanley Parable Ultra Deluxe, mostly tedious. It's as if oh, okay. Let's see the content. Give me the content, Stanley.
Give me the content. La gente de mi canal cuando ven que no subió video en
Alright.
meses.
All right, let's see.
Deja el contenido, Pancho.
The jump circle?
The jump circle. Ok. Oprimir espacio para saltar. Oh, ahora puedo saltar. Solamente puedo saltar ahí. Este es el único lugar donde puedo saltar en todo el juego. Esto es nuevo. Esto es nuevo contenido. Así es como se hace el DLC. Oh, ya no puedo saltar más. Eso estuvo bueno.
Is that it? Surely that's not all the new content. There has to be something else, right?
Tiene que haber, supongo.
Goodness. Another elevator. Stanley, I have to say, initial impressions of this game are not positive.
No mucho.
It's just elevators and jumping. Is this what passes for exciting new content? If this is new content, then I could just read you the whole dictionary. There's 20 hours of new content right there. Hell, I could counter 30 trillion. You could put that on the box. The Stanley Parable Ultra Deluxe, now with over 1,000 hours of new content. And oh wait, there's more. Very good. Yes. I knew there had to be something else.
Yes.
Let's see it. I'm ready for whatever it is.
Este es un pasillo bastante bonito. Gracias.
That's it? Oh, you've got to be kidding me. You see, Stanley? This is what happens when greedy video game developers with no respect for their fan base rush a cheap expansion to market for no reason other than to make an easy dollar. And don't get me started on the level of craftsmanship that's gone into it. In fact, I'm looking right now at the game's achievements, and it's hard to believe one of them actually says, "Test achievement, please ignore." What quality assurance department signed off on this? I'm infuriated and I'm offended, and I intend to find these people on Twitter and hold them personally accountable. It's my fault, Stanley. I built up too much anticipation around the new content, I'm afraid. It could never have lived up to such expectations. If you're still with me, why don't we just reset the game and we'll try to get back to what the Stanley Parable is really about. No frills, no gimmicks. Just you and me having a great time together like always. What do you say, friend?
Ok. Wow. Esto es distinto.
Psst! Stanley! Come over here! In the vent! I want to show you something!
Ok.
Okay, you remember how cheap and unsatisfying the new Ultra Deluxe content turned out to be? Well, it got me thinking about the past and how much better the Stanley Parable used to be. So I made something special and tucked it away here where the game's developers won't find it. Just our little secret. Take a look. I call it the Memory Zone. It's where I've been storing all my favorite memories so I can relive the peak experiences of my life whenever I want.
Okay.
Experiences like the launch of the Stanley Parable on PC. You see, Stanley, doesn't the Memory Zone remind you of how wonderful Stanley Parable was before it was sullied with a cheap re-release? Remember back in October of 2013 when the game originally launched? Back then, video games had integrity. Back then, it all meant something. Oh, the waste.
Audience Award. The Stanley Parable. The British Academy of Film and Television Arts. ¡Oh! ¡Wow! Oh. La veo buena. Este es el premio que... Este es el premio que le dieron a The Last of Us en el 2013. De ahí dice... la Academia... La Academia Británica de Artes de Películas y Televisión premio para Bruce Stanley de Last of Us en la categoría Historia 2014. ¿Y esto? Audience Award, Stanley Parable, ok. La wea buena. Good Times. The Stanley Parable. Mozilla Firefox, por favor. Smile because it happened. A trip down memory lane. The Stanley Demonstration. Ese era el demo que hicieron en su momento. Go outside. No juegues por 5 años. Eso es un logro real. Unachievable. It is impossible to get this achievement. De alguna forma. Ok. Esas son nominaciones. Nuevo videojuego sale hoy. Stanley Parable Deluxe Tough Choices. Ok, vamos por acá. A ver qué más encontramos. La música está muy buena, ¿eh?
And over here is where I keep reviews of the Stanley Parable. Like this stunning triumph of games journalism. 10 out of 10 from Destructoid.com. James Stephanie Sterling writes, and I quote, "Where so many games that aspire to be more than games end up less than any form of art, Stanley Parable strives and then succeeds to be every game ever created." Did you hear that, Stanley? Every game ever created. That's how grand and all-encompassing the original Stanley Parable was. It was literally every game ever created. It was Skyrim, it was Persona 3, it was all of them, and now it's nothing. It's no games at all. It isn't even the Stanley Parable anymore. It's just a husk now. A lifeless husk with an hour of new elevator content.
Okay. Vamos a seguir aquí arriba. El remake original. Persona del año. Esa es Unity.
Here's another moving passage, this time from GameSpot.com. The Stanley Parable is both a richly stimulating commentary on the nature of choice in games and one that offers some of the most enjoyable, surprising, and rewarding choices I've ever been confronted with in a game. 9 out of 10. Don't you get it, Stanley? The game was perfect. It didn't need anything else.
Hola,
It didn't need new content.
Voy a seguir
It
transmitiendo unos
just
10
needed
minutos
to
más.
be left alone. To spend the rest of time collecting dust in the hallowed hall of beloved video game memories.
Ok. ¿Por dónde? ¿Dónde? Supongo que esa parte. Porque aquí está bloqueado. Vamos por acá.
These were simpler times, Stanley. But I wouldn't give to go back to have it all over again. Wait, hang on. I don't recall this part of the memory zone before. What's this? What's down here?
Oh, esto está feito.
Oh no.
Steam reviews.
Stanley, it's a collection of reviews from Steam, the online video game distributor. I haven't looked at these in years.
Oh.
I can't even imagine what's been collecting down here.
¿Quién sabe
Surely
qué
these
puede haber
reviews were
aquí?
glowing as well, weren't they?
Uy, las reviews de Steam son... Uy.
Honestly, I could not be bothered to play this game to full completion. The narrator is obnoxious and unfunny, with his humor and dialogue proving to be more irritating than entertaining. Unfunny! I'm not trying to be funny. I'm trying to make a serious work of art. I suppose I could write up a handful of gags to insert into the Stanley Parable, but the game is already such a densely layered web of profound philosophical insights that I can't even imagine where I'd have the room to stick them.
Ok. Esto está muy bueno. No, ok. Vamos por acaso. Steam Reviews, como una empresa. Se me están saliendo las lágrimas de lo gracioso que es esto. A ver.
Okay, let's see what this one says. While the idea for the game is good, for someone who prefers non-linear games, this preachiness gets annoying fast. Preachy? Stanley? I'm not preachy, am I? You can tell me if I'm preachy. Honestly, you can. Oh, goodness. This is actually quite shocking.
A mí también me encanta el metamor que tiene este juego.
To be honest, I had always thought of the game's dialogue as being rather terse to begin with. You can't know how much fluff I cut from the game to get it to feel as light and airy as it... Well, I always thought it did. But maybe it wasn't. Dear.
Okay,
What an awful memory to have to hold on to. These black marks are my otherwise unimpeachable track record. I feel like a failure. Like I let these people down. Perhaps the Stanley Parable isn't quite as sterling as I always remember.
Me encanta lo serio que se toma las reviews de Steam, weón. Son como las reviews más desechables de toda la historia, weón. Y se la está tomando tan en serio. Y hay gente así que se pone a escribir reviews de Steam, así súper en serio. Oh, Recover, gracias por canjear el toma agua, pero... Gracias. De hecho voy a tomar agua. Oh. Oye chicos, que bacán verlos. Lamento que hayan llegado tan tarde, man, pero igual lo entiendo porque hace rato que no transmito. Y tengo que irme en 10 minutos a lo más. Pero me alegro de que estén aquí 6 personas. Muchas gracias por estar aquí. Espero poder volver a transmitir de forma más activa pronto. Pero mientras tanto, veamos esto.
What's this one got to say? You constantly have to stop doing anything so the narrator can catch up with his long-winded explanations of what's happening. I wish there was a skip button. A skip button? Well, yes. Yes, I think we can do that. If I'm truly too preachy, then maybe letting you skip ahead for just a moment, surely it couldn't hurt. Not if it means we can strike these negative reviews from the record. Only positive reviews of the Stanley Parable. That's my motto today, and it's always been my motto. I'd do anything for the customer, Stanley. Yes, a skip button we shall have.
Que si me van a dar un botón de omitir. Genial. ¿Me puedo tirar al agua? No puedo.
And here it is. Go ahead and give it a shot. I'll pop you forward in time so that the second my incessant droning starts to bore you, with just the push of a button, you'll have zipped right past it. It's what the players have been asking for, and I'm very proud to have delivered.
Okay.
No more listening to me rambling on and on and on. No. The Stanley Parable is a game for
va a seguir hablando.
If people want silence, then by goodness, that's what they're going to get. Well, don't sit around waiting for me to shut up. Go ahead and make me shut up. Here, we'll pretend that I've just begun an interminable monologue, and it goes something like this. The story and the choices, or what have you, and therefore by becoming it is, so on and so forth, until inevitably we all until the end of time, at which time everything all at once. So now you see, blah 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 blah. We've eaten too much and it can't be just yet. No, until 245. That the logic of elimination working backwards, the deduction therefore becomes impossible to manufacture. It went on for nearly 10,000 years, until just yesterday, here and there, forward and back, and never a moment before lunchtime. It can't be.
It's the only thing there is. How many billions left until so much more than forever ago? Which is why I say the story and the choices.
Oh, ok, esto se
and
está
therefore,
se
by
va
becoming
a
it
empezar a
is,
repetir.
so on and so forth, until inevitably we all until the end of
Yo
time.
me estoy
at which
imaginando
time
el
everything
código
all
que
runs.
se ejecuta
So, now
acá.
you see, blah blah
En
blah
esta
blah
parte.
blah
Ya,
blah
ok.
blah blah.
Ok.
Oh, you're back, you see. You were only frozen in time for a few minutes, but it was plenty of time for me to deliver a long, rambling monologue full of unnecessary verbal flourishes and lengthy ruminations on the nature of choice in video games. Of course, I happen to believe it was perhaps one of my more profound such ruminations. Not that, of course, you need a description of it, but if I had to describe it, I'd say it was perhaps less of a rumination and more of a treatise. Or maybe a manifesto. Look, I'll outline it for you very briefly. Well there, sport. You really did catch me rambling on a bit, didn't you? But that's the power of the button. The minute I start to go off on a thoughtless display of self-absorption, it's right... Okay, welcome back, Stanley. Now, I should say that the amount of time the button has been skipping through is becoming longer and longer. That last one was, well, I want to say maybe 30, 45 minutes? Stanley, please don't push the button again. It's been 12 hours. You've just been frozen there. I don't know why the skips are getting longer, but they're really, truly... Oh, Stanley, you're back. You're back. Oh, my goodness. I have someone to talk to again. Stanley, I think it's been a week.
Una semana.
Or 2 weeks. I've been sitting here all that time. Just sitting here. Not a single person to speak with. And you'd think that that's just how it's always been, right? Me talking.
Va a pasar años.
Oh, hello. It's you. You're here again. Welcome. I have had time to think about you and about us and about everything we've been through. I've had so much time. I stopped keeping track after a year. Have you ever sat down in one place and not moved for one entire year? Let me describe it for you. To begin with,
No, va a llegar a un punto en que el narrador va a estar muerto. Ya ni siquiera quiere hablarme, man. Puedo volver a esquipear. ¿Qué es eso? Ya se murió la planta, de hecho ya... Sí. Vamos a esquivar una vez más.
But they didn't understand the game was never meant to be funny. It was meant to have a point. It was meant to speak to the human condition. But where are the jokes? Where are the jokes? They bemoaned, they screamed, they gnashed their teeth and said, entertain us. It wasn't enough. They had to leave a pathetic little thumbs-down review and make all of their pitiful demands. But then, he's talking too much, they said. First, he didn't entertain us, now he won't shut up. It's the inconsistency, it's the lack of accountability. It's the unwillingness to examine with an uncompromising heart the words that they are speaking into the world. As though there were no consequences for a lack of cohesion in one's assessment of others. But
No tengo salida, ¿eh? No hay salida, parece, no. De hecho estoy encerrado acá.
the end is never the end, is never the end, is never the end, is never the end, is never the
End is never the end, 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 is never... Escucho a alguien o algo. ¿Habrá forma de salir de acá? Esto ya se está inundando. Wow. Me pregunto si... No, todavía estoy encerrado. Supongo que voy a tener que seguir esperando. Bueno, mientras más hago esto, más tiempo pasa y probablemente quede libre eventualmente. Como que ya en este punto la humanidad se terminó. Así. Wow. Ya de Last of Us es esto. Oh. ¿Por cuánto rato más voy a tener que estar? Wow. ¿Me morí? ¿O qué pasó? Oh, por fin puedo salir. Ok. Am, chicos, voy a dejar esto hasta aquí. Voy a oye, supongo que ese fue el final. Esquivaste hasta el final de todos los. Sí, así parece. Hasta que ya no quedaba nada. Oye, chicos, muchas gracias a todos por estar aquí un ratito. Em, lamento haber estado tan ausente último tiempo, pero he estado con muchas cosas que hacer. Esperen un... Amigos desaparecerá el 25 de mayo de 2022. Cuando se elimine ya no podrás ver qué amigos están conectados. Ok, bueno, tengo amigos. Em, esperen un video nuevo este fin de semana. No, no es un video de Resident Evil o review o lo que sea. Es un video para contarles más o menos en qué estado, cuál es el estado del canal de YouTube, cuál va a ser el futuro del canal. Eh, solamente sepan que sigo acá, no me he ido, ya, pero solamente que quiero ser bien transparente con todos ustedes y dejarles saber en qué estoy, qué pasa con el canal, por qué no estoy haciendo tantos videos últimamente. Em, así que eso, para que ahí lo vean y eso. Sin problemas, Pancho, tú tómate tu tiempo y si se da el caso de encontrarnos, nos la pasamos bien, pero te apoyamos. Nice, gracias. Gracias, Rato TV. Así que eso, yo voy a tratar de. Ya, no les quiero prometer ya que voy a estar transmitiendo lunes, miércoles y viernes todas las semanas como me gustaba hacerlo anteriormente. Pero voy a tratar de retomar los streams de forma un poco más activa. Por último, una vez a la semana, ¿ya? Así que ahí les pido que estén atentos a mis redes sociales: Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, el Discord también, porque ahí siempre les estoy avisando. Para que nos vamos a seguir encontrando aquí. Yo creo que próxima semana voy a volver a transmitir. De repente, si es que me dan ganas, transmito el sábado o el domingo. Pero eso, para que sepan que sigo aquí. Me compré una capturadora de video bastante cara para poder usar mi cámara a full calidad, así que tengo que aprovecharla. Eso, chicos, cuídense mucho, descansen y nos vemos en un próximo stream. ¿Vas a hacer un raid? Sí, me pregunta quién le podría hacer. Vamos a hacerle un raid a la Pau, que está ahí transmitiendo. Se me había olvidado que se podían hacer raids. A Pau. Ya, vamos a hacer un raid a la Pau. Y cuando lleguemos, quiero que todos escribamos en el chat pan con queso. ¿Ya? Ese va a ser nuestro grito de batalla. Sí, vamos a hacerle un raid a la Pau. ¿Ya? Y cuando lleguemos al raid, todos vamos a escribir en mayúscula pan con queso. ¿Ya? Así demostramos nuestra unidad. Ya, chicos, que estén todos muy bien. Muy buenas noches a todos. Bye bye.